Zlezero Medical Bay. Warren studied the bug-like aliens, making sure to record as much detail as possible. He got his suit's computer chugging to create profiles for the individuals. The one that directed him to the medical room was conferring with a multitude of others, and apparently giving orders despite being hooked up to a series of machines. He marked it as a leader on his HUD, and even though the aliens were all in suits of some sort, he had the suit's AI attempt to assign the various aliens unique identifiers based on information it could gather. He got a better look at the leader's bodily features once the medic started removing its heavily torn suit. It was a deep blue with magenta patterns swirling along the carapace. Its face was somewhat reminiscent of a spider, with two large black eyes facing frontwards, and a set of two smaller eyes on the sides of its head. On the upper body sat two thick arms. He could see a few vicious black blades extended on the broken left arm, which caught on the fabric as they took it off, forcing the attendants to cut the suit away with knives. The hands had a set of 5 fingers and 2 thumbs. The torso had many interlocking segments, looking almost like a medieval suit of armor. Its legs were about as long as the rest of its body, with 3 joints and a spindly nature which made them look somewhat delicate. He got an audio ping as one of his squadmates sent him a visual feed. "Look at how bad my map is. It's like the walls are made out of static." Without outwardly moving, the group sent map data to each other's HUDs. None of their computers agreed with the exact dimensions of the room they were in, or any other room in the 3D map it was attempting to generate. "Vincent, try to clear that up." Yeah, give me a second. What do you think I've been doing?" Vincent took a minute to download the recorded map data from the other's suits, then combined the squad's data into an average of the 4. It brought the noise down significantly, but the 3D map of the room continued to shift in size as their lidars worked. "This is so annoying. At least our IMUs agree on the path we took to get here." A ping sounded and brought Warren's attention to the suit's vitals. 10 minutes until our heat sinks get saturated. Olsen, do you think we could do a dump here?" "Nah, I would strongly recommend against it. I caught the insides of that blue one's mouth. Their internal body temperature is -80 degrees C. Air is -60. Maybe we could get away with coupling it to the wall behind us and dumping it there directly, but it'll be a temporary measure." Warren let out a huff. "Shit. We'd best do that now just in case. If the air temperature around us rises by more than 5 degrees, we'll cut it off." Zlezero Engineering Deck. Dominating over half of the engineering bay, the SMES coil popped and hummed as copious amounts of liquid helium flash-boiled. In the control room, power engineer Ling Ern noted that the coolant tank levels were significantly lower than required to safely quench the power unit. He turned to one of the living engineers not dealing with casualties.
"Orion, grab as much flexible hosing as we've got. If we don't do something, the coil's going to blow up."
Grabbing a few spare tanks of vacuum sealant foam, 2 portable torches, a radio set, and a spacesuit, he began to suit up. Orion came back with 10 unopened rolls of insulated repair hose.
"And we've got quite a bit left. What are we doing with it?"
Doing quick mental math, Ling Ern tried to remember the distance between the engine deck and the power engineering.
"Start opening them and chaining them together. I'm going to try to get hydrogen from the aft fuel tanks and put it into SMES's coolant system when the helium runs out."
Orion cut them open and started screwing the ends together.
"Sir, the coil's not meant to use hydrogen as a coolant."
Ling Ern grabbed the end of it as it unspooled.
"Son, since it's vented into space, it will suck the hydrogen through, and should flash boil slightly lower than the critical temperature. Now hurry. We only have a few minutes before the helium levels are critical. The moment the helium pressure hits red on the gauge, you're going to need to cut a hole in the coolant bypass line. Stick that hose in there, then seal it with some foam. Take this radio and tell me when you do that, and I'll start the flow."
Ling Ern clipped the extra foam tanks to his suit and left the generator room. Getting to the access ladder, he jumped down. Pulling the hose down, he dropped deck by deck until he arrived at the engine room. He was stopped in his tracks at the sight of a massive hole in one of the walls, guarded by red, hot, incandescent robots carrying some sort of firearm.
"I don't have time for this. Maybe they won't see me."
Fucking it, Ling Ern bolted into the room and opened up an access hatch for the main nuclear engine. He navigated the tangle of lines until he found the main hydrogen inlet. He used his torch to cut a neat hole in the inlet line and stuck his end of the hose far into it before sealing the rest of the line with foam. Getting back to the control panel, he tried to initiate the startup procedure for the engine and groaned when he noticed that while there was still fuel, the pressurized gas tanks were destroyed.
Fine, I'll do it manually.
Jumping up to the top of one of the fuel tanks, he cut a small hole through it with his torch and stuck the torch through. Then he sealed the entrance with the torch sticking into the fuel tank.
Boss, I got the hose into the bypass line. Understood.
Opening the torch's valves all the way, he felt the walls of the tank next to it starting to heat up. He raced back to the engine's fuel line and opened the valve. Feeling liquid thrumming through the hose, he then pushed off and went up the line, undoing a few kinks along the way. Ship 10, airlock. The two guards standing by the entrance watched as the lone alien stopped by the door, then jumped across the room with a hose of some sort. Hey, Captain, are you saying this? Should we do something? Negative. You two don't have the same power armor that the heavy teams do. Those aliens will fuck you up in a hand-to-hand fight, and Team 2 is still being briefed. Just throw a camera ball over there so we can see what it's doing. If it charges at you, retreat into the ship. Lingerin hustled back to the engineering deck and stopped at the SMES coil.
Orion, status. It's barely working, sir. The coil is no longer cooling down, but it's also not heating up.
Lingerin checked the information panel.
Yeah, there's still too much energy to be dispersed in too short of a time. Attention! Anyone able to move, and grab someone unconscious and bring them to the medical bay. Yes, sir.
Lingerin looked around and jumped to a catwalk with a group of unconscious crew members. He gently tossed the three of them towards the exit, then jumped in front of their flying bodies, catching them one at a time, before they hit the wall. Repeating the process, he made his way to the medical bay. As soon as he entered, he noticed a bunch of stationary robots lined up against the back wall.
I got wounded here. What the hell is up with these robots?
A couple of medics came over and started handling his injured crew members.
To be honest, we don't know. They brought the captain and the crew of the engine bay here and then just turned off for something. Captain says they're not hostile, but I don't trust them. Got to go.
As the medics started setting up extra canvas beds to handle the overflow, Lingerin found the captain, who was discussing something with a one-armed tactician.
Captain, I need people to get the wounded out of the generator room, and fast. We've got at least 30 individuals unable to move, and the power ring is quenching.
Captain Tothquap looked at him.
Damn it. The last stable bodies were sent to evacuate the science bay. I don't have any more people on hand. Are you serious? Damn it!
He looked around the room again. Spotting the group of robots, he sighed and floated over to them. Squad, one of them is approaching us. Everyone swiveled their heads to look at the lone alien Warren spotted. It grabbed a hold of a nearby rail and began pantomiming something with its arms. Warren scratched his head. I don't follow. Vincent and the others just watched it. Yeah, boss, I don't really get what it's trying to say. Apparently frustrated, it reached forward and grabbed Warren's arm, pointing at the door. I guess we're going this way then. Follow the alien, squad. Moving quickly, the group followed the alien like ducklings down the corridor until they came upon a new ladder tube. Descending about 40 meters, they arrived in another corridor before they saw a few aliens quickly coming towards them, carrying more injured. They probably want us to help rescue people. The group coming towards them looked surprised as they talked for a few seconds, until the aliens escorting them waved them off. Pushing past, they entered a control room. Looking through the windows, he saw a huge donut-looking thing, with wires and stuff sticking out of it. It was also currently in the process of destroying itself. Looking over at the frozen aliens looking at the donut, Warren made up his mind. We'd better hurry. Bracing against the side of the controls, he slammed a powered leg into the door, shaking the entire room. The nearest alien jolted and opened the door before he could hit it again. Facing his team, he yelled, "Let's go!" And they barreled through the door. Deciding that now was not a time for discretion, Warren activated his suit's floodlights and got the AI highlighting aliens on his HUD. Right, Zabel, stand by the entrance. We're going to form a chain and throw them at you to get them out of here as quickly as possible. Charles and Kimba, you stand in the clearing, we throw them to you, and you throw them to Zabel. Got it? The three of them activated the suction setting on their boots and tested the floor before spreading out. Got it. Warren, Vincent, and Olsen started flying around the room. With the suit's computer's perfect aim, each alien they found was gently, but precisely, hucked at Charles and Kimba, who funneled them out the door into the control room. Vincent took a look at his external temperature gauge, which read negative 50 degrees Celsius. "Getting kind of hot in here, boss." "I know, I think that's the last one done." They all reached the control room and saw the last alien waiting for them. "Quick, dump your heat sinks. Don't know when we'll get the chance." They heard loud sizzling as the thermal energy from all their exertions from the last 15 minutes dumped itself into the frigid atmosphere over the course of 5 seconds. Pushing their way out, they just about left when Warren's HUD picked up one more alien hidden behind a crevice in the room. "One more, I'll get it." Rushing back into the room, his suit alerted him to a significant rise in temperature. "Oh, shit!" Thinking quickly, he grabbed an insulated pouch meant to ferry rescued humans past vacuum-locked areas and began inflating it with the local atmosphere. He stuffed the alien into it and zipped it shut right as the big donut exploded. Let earn. Seeing the robots about to enter the control room, he waited for them, ready to shut the door.
"Come on, let's go!"
They stopped at the entrance and waved him away. A second later, he heard a loud hissing and saw white-hot gases jetting off the robots. Taking that cue to get out of there, he made a break for the ladder, almost reaching it. He felt a shudder and slammed into the wall of the corridor before falling to the floor with a large, cracking sound. Gasping for breath, he tried to lift himself off the ground. Grabbing the ladder, he pulled himself upwards to no avail. Hearing heavy clomping behind him, he looked back and saw the robots stomping towards him. The robots tested the ladder before starting to climb up. He passed out. Coast Guard Interceptor 10 docked with the Zlezero. In the cramped briefing room, an analyst went over the recorded video sent back by Team 1. Sliding through the video, he selected the time when the alien woke up in Warren's arms and escaped. "As you see, the aliens are much stronger than a baseline human. With the suit's servos, Warren was able to overpower it, but barely." He then switched perspectives to one of the other team members. "The suit's sensor suite clocked the one that slammed Peter in at 30 meters per second. It somehow shattered the ceramic plates and cut through the fibrous layers of the armor before puncturing his oxygen tank. Your suits are meant to resist HMG fire." The analyst put a new image onto the projector. Black shards of a glass-like substance were arranged on a slide. "I extracted these fragments from Peter's oxygen tank. The material analyzer is still working, but these are a form of boron nitride. These shards have microscopic, fluid-filled capillaries in them, which seem to delay crack propagation and provide a path for additional material to be deposited. I estimate that it's around 20 to 30 times the toughness of pure boron nitride, and it gets insanely sharp at the fracture points. Since the normal composite armor apparently isn't enough, I've got the fabricator making some steel plates to cover the fibrous bits of your suit. It's going to slow you down a bit due to the weight, obviously. As for Team 1, we've been tracking them via G-ray scans, but no communications have been able to make it out of the ship. They were stationary for a bit, then moved to one of the lower decks. We don't really know what they're doing, but that's where you come in. You'll be bringing a series of more powerful transmitters to get comm signals throughout the ship. Any question? The ship jolted, and they all started getting pushed into their backrests. Military Intelligence Headquarters, 2 kilometers below the north pole of the Ianian home moon. The tightly packed, dark room buzzed with frantic energy. Attendants scurried around, ferrying briefing papers for the gathered brass to review. The bright glow of consumed smolderweed was the main source of illumination in the smoky atmosphere. More and more people filed in. Different carapace colors marked some individuals that had been summoned from other planets in the system. Locking loudly, the doors shut, and the room settled down as the attending parties read the prepared files. Checking his watch, Hokbar took a final drag to calm himself, before grinding the roll into an ashtray and heading to the podium. Opening his chromed briefcase, he grabbed a larger roll of film and stuck it onto the central projector, lighting up the room. The weight of his world's collective leadership staring silently weighed him down, making him almost regret becoming the chief of intelligence. He rolled the film. A grainy image of a planet could be made out, slowly clarifying into a gas giant system. One large moon was circled with a highlighter. A new video. A time-lapse of the highlighted moon began, showing it moving for a short period of time, before pausing suddenly as a tiny flash of light could be seen near it. Murmurs from the audience started, but the video continued. The same time-lapse was shown, but this time recorded with a mainsail reflector focused with the moon in the center of the screen. Again, it paused on a much brighter flash of light, this time emanating from the upper right corner of the screen. He cleared his throat quietly.
Ladies and gentlemen, a few weeks ago an expedition was scheduled for this G-type star system.
The ship contingent was one X-class stealth corvette, an FTL mail sender, and one scout ship for observation. Due to this system's potential to hold intelligent extraterrestrial life and the intense solar winds, the stealth ship went alone. In order to penetrate the heliosphere and force a stable channel, they used a still classified warp drive utilizing the energy of a high-yield nuclear warhead. Captain Tothquap and his crew identified a likely origin for ET life and planned to warp to a safe distance away from any celestial bodies, then use their mainsail reflector in order to observe any developments. They initiated their warp 57 hours ago. Tracking their trajectory, it is clear that they were forced into an emergency dewarp. There was a total lack of information for a period of 12 hours longer than expected. Then we received a packet with information about potentially hostile enemy forces. Mere minutes later, a nuclear detonation was spotted, and their black box began sending data to the scout. The ship has been destroyed. The room remained silent for a second, before turning into disorganized murmuring and discussion. Starting the video again, he began commentary. Spectrometers indicate a complete lack of emission lines from any known fissile element. All evidence indicates that the device is one of pure fusion. Until now, this type of weapon has been purely theoretical. This indicates a significant military and technical advantage they have over us. We propose that they, as a species, originate on the 6th moon of the 6th planet in the system. It is the most similar to ours in size and shares a similar solar irradiance. Included in the black box transmission were basic specifications for one of the aliens' military satellites. It measures approximately 4 kilometers in diameter. It has a power output in the potentially high gigawatt range, and carries massive batteries of what they believe to be laser turrets. The planet and moons are safely within the warp exclusion zone of a G-type star. Despite this, reports show increasing amounts of an unknown type of warp noise emanating from within their star system. This is the extent of the knowledge we have of the aliens. I concede the floor to our leader, Warren In. A large Ionian, orange with bright red markings, stood up and took the podium. Thank you for responding to my summons. I will be the first to acknowledge the severity of this threat. There are aliens. They are hostile. They can apparently detect our most advanced warships. They start wars with nuclear hellfire. This is what we are gathered here to discuss. Is this species too dangerous to leave alone, or should we even risk their wrath by attacking them? As your king, it is my responsibility to make the final decision. But I do not want to make it alone. I want opinions. I represent the 3rd off-world colony. I believe that anybody who would use WMDs before diplomacy should be considered too dangerous to leave alone. We should strike first before they have time to destroy us. We will offer our fleet of warships. From the back, a smaller red stood up.
They already attacked us. We will not sit here and wait for them to come to us. You have the 5th colony's fleet at your disposal.
Closer to the front, a purple one stood up.
I must advise caution. We have no idea why they did what they did. I recommend we drastically increase funding to build more powerful interdiction craft. We cannot afford to have them waltz past our defense lines over one of our homeworlds and glass it. It does us no good to invade them if they will just retaliate anyways.
An old green struggled to stand up.
30 years ago, when the bullets came, I stood proud to defend my home. I stood against some of you in this very room, and I am happy that I stand with you today. I will not sit idly by while a new nuclear threat hangs above our head. You have the support of the 1st colony.
With a huff, he sat down. Another stood. I am Admiral Ergpuan. It was not that long ago that we spent almost 10 years cowering in fear of nuclear Armageddon before the armistice.
People do not deserve to go through this again. The fact that they are willing to use nuclear weaponry as a first strike necessitates massive retaliation. We could send entire fleets to destroy every ship they have, but if their command structure is not immediately taken out, they would be able to stage a counterattack. We don't have the logistical resources to occupy that star system to prevent them from rebuilding. If we try to fight them and we fail, they will know exactly where we are, and they will destroy us. We need to destroy their homeworld before they can do the same to us.
King Warren sighed, gazing upon the crowd before him.
This is a fight for our very existence. Are we going to cower in fear, shaking in our boots, or do we retaliate? I say we strike back, end this evil before it can grow out of control. I know it has been less than a generation since the massive war, but today we are united against a common foe. Spread the word. Your king calls for aid in a time of need.